everyone. So, welcome back to Rebirth a Gift. I am Stacy Benton. I am the author of this highly anticipated novel, 400, almost, 500 page novel. And I'm so excited and elated to be here with you guys today. So if this is your first time listening in, I really appreciate it. I'm so excited to be able to share my journey and story with you. And so please make yourself at home as you watch the videos, as you absorb the content. Another thing that I want to encourage you as well is to make sure that you are implementing the assignments, because what that is going to do is going to help you really understand the fullness of the journey, the healing and transformational journey you are embarking upon. And I just want to really just really continue to motivate you, to encourage you you're becoming the best version of yourself, and it is a process. So I want you to be patient and kind and understanding and generous and compassionate with yourself, because you've already been through a lot. So if this is your first time, definitely want to thank you. A little bit about myself on a more personal note. I am an MBA graduate with a marketing specialization. I also have years of experience in marketing, sales development, entrepreneurship, and things of that nature. I have a very entrepreneurial spirit, and I think that just comes from the infinite one, the creator, as I call God, on this channel. And I'm so grateful to be able to have embarked upon these different achievements, and it was just the grace of God, because given the background that I came from, I was really never even imagined that I will be the person that I am today. And I'm still growing just like you. I'm still evolving just like you. We are on this journey together. And I know one of the reasons why I'm so passionate about this channel is because sometimes you can feel so isolated and so lonely when it comes to this journey of healing and restoration from your childhood trauma, from your complex trauma. And there are several videos on this channel that really goes into detail and explains what you've gone through, so that you can start to find that level of compassion for yourself, so that you can now rediscover your most authentic voice. So I want to encourage you and just really uplift you to know that this is just the beginning, that this journey is continuous. Just like I'm on my journey, all the attributes, professional and personal, this just did not happen overnight. This was a process. And during this process, you have to learn to be more compassionate to yourself, more generous with yourself, and learn how to really be more authentic with yourself. And all of these videos are working together for your good, just building a foundation that now you can start back pouring into yourself and spending that time in healing. And I'm not talking about a level of selfishness. I'm talking about self-discovery, self-awareness, self-healing, so that now you can become the best version of yourself in this present moment, and also for your destiny and your future that you are embarking upon. And when you have gone through tremendous amounts of trauma, it's very difficult when you're in that healing transformational process is to really see the vision that God has for your life, the vision that you may also have for your life. It's like you see it, but um you don't see it. It's complex because of all the trauma that you've gone through, all the difficulties, all the challenges, all the ups and downs, the roller coaster ride, the relationships, the failed marriages, the failed business ventures, the failed attempts at your own success. So it's a lot of failure. Hey, we're in this together. Not meaning that you are a failure, but not really um, achieving everything is part of the journey because you're learning. You're learning what are your strengths. You're learning what are your weaknesses. You're discovering a deeper relationship with God, the one that created you. And this is why I'm so passionate about this channel. It's really not even about the subscribers. As I mentioned before, it's about giving you meat. It's about giving you content that's going to really help you transform. Because I've been there. I've been exactly where you are. And I'm so not the person that I am going to be transforming into. I'm not that person at this moment, just like you're not the person that you will be transforming into as you heal. But you're not the person you were 10 years ago, 1 year ago, 5 years ago, 3 years ago, 20 years ago, whatever the amount of time that you've been doing the necessary work to heal and to process your trauma or your painful experiences so that now you can become that mother that you always envision. Now you could become that dad that your children just admires and looks up to. Now you could become that wife that you saw, back in the day. You saw the grandmothers and the grannies. They were just so naturally gifted, it seems, in just being a wife. Now you could become that business professional, that woman or that man that you always envisioned in the back of your mind, the person that you dreamed that you will be becoming. And it's all a process. It's all a process. And I want you to learn to embrace the journey. Stop running, okay? Stop running. Stop running from this transformation. Stop running from your pain. Stop hiding from yourself. Stop hiding from the trauma of your childhood. It's time to step out on faith. And this is an element that's very powerful that I deal with on this channel, REBIRTH-a Gift. Because as I was transforming and becoming this business professional, this mother, that now I can embrace motherhood. I can learn how to be attentive and present and compassionate and forgiving and continue to pour into my children, to continue to pour in to my legacy so I can continue to pour in to them and be strong, be a role model for them. And that does not happen overnight. This is a process. And I want you to grasp this concept of nothing good comes quickly. Nothing that lasts is built quickly. Think of it this way. It's like you're building your temple. You're building your inner spiritual man. You're building that aspect of yourself that is going to be transformative, not only for your life, but for those that you love, your husband or your wife, your children, your grandchildren, for the employees that you envision, the dream team that you envision for your business and your company. So all of this that you're building, you're breaking down the barriers and the walls that has been built around trauma, that you're no longer identifying just with that trauma, but now you're transforming it. You're becoming very authentic. You're finding that aspect of yourself that was stolen when you were a child. You're finding that trueness, that purity that was stripped away from you when you were violated as a child. You're finding that creativity and that innovativeness and that athleticism, that energy that was stolen away from you because of dysfunctional families, dysfunctional people in your life. So this is all a process, okay? And I want you to really understand this, because you can become frustrated with yourself because it's like you're not making the progress like you imagined or envisioned. But learn to embrace it day by day. And that is why I give daily exercises, weekly exercises, so you can journal, you can reflect. It brings higher level of awareness. If you're not a writer, then just sit in a quiet space or a quiet place where you can just think. Think about all your wins in life. As I mentioned before, when I introduced myself, I am an MBA graduate, but that didn't happen overnight. That was a journey from being that young woman that had small children at a very young age, that had to figure it out because of the foster care system that really left me really abandoned. Then going into a very abusive adopted home that left me torn and more traumatized. But one thing I can say, despite all of that, there was an innate desire to be successful, no matter how much I failed. And this is a concept that I want you to grasp, is that failure is part of the journey, but it does not define who you are or who you are becoming. It is just part of the transformational healing process that you're on. And this is a very beautiful process. It's like Phoenix rising from the ashes. You're rediscovering those elements of life that was stolen. Just a simple peace and serenity of enjoying, like today, the leaves on the ground, the beautiful complexities of colors of a new canvas that's being painted as the leaves fall onto the ground. The beautiful colors and the oranges and the rustic colors and the yellows of the trees. The cool air now being transformed from that hot air from the spring. You're getting into the fall and the winter. The small moments, you will start to get those back. And it's not just about the degrees and the business and the money and the influence. That is part of the elevation. However, it's like really enjoying the simplicity of life is what you're really going after. Enjoying the small things, like looking into your children's eyes and seeing yourself, but them smarter and more intelligent than you, more gifted than you. And then you can embrace that, and you can now pull those gifts and talents out of them. Because no longer are you really in this trauma cycle in your minds where you're just floating. You're just confused all the time because you have not gone through the process of healing. And it's taken away those now moments, the present moments. Oh my gosh, I've been there. I've been there. So I'm not a person that will ever say that I'm a perfect human being. I will never sit here and say that I got it all together. But I'm not the person that I was when I was in foster care. I'm not the person that I was when I was adopted. I'm not the young woman that I was when I first met my husband. I'm not that person anymore. And that's all glory goes to the Most High, the God, the creator of the heavens and the earth, that saw fit to give me another chance at life. And this is what you are embarking upon. You're embarking upon a new beginning, a new experience to not only experience yourself, but experience the world around you, to experience the life around you, to now be able to embrace your husband in a deeper level, now to embrace your children on a deeper level, now embrace your creative ideas, your creativity on a deeper level. Now you can embrace your grandchildren on a deeper level. Now you can embrace your business and be that entrepreneur that you always desired. So there's so many wins that you're going to get by putting in the work. I'm not the channel that's going to spoon feed you garbage and lies and deception. This is not this channel. This is a channel that's going to encourage you and uplift you to now do the heavy lifting. It's time for you to take control of yourself. Stop trying to control everybody around you. Stop trying to control this and control that out of fear. Now it's time to really look inwardly and say, what do I need to change? How can I transform my situation? How can I now get back that energy that is needed to now go and exercise, now go back to college and finish that degree, or that master's degree, or that PhD, or that nursing degree, or I never passed the teacher's exam, so I'm gonna go back and I'm gonna pursue that. Whatever the goals and aspirations that you felt you were not able to achieve, is because you have not done a lot of the heavy lifting, and your mind, your will, and your emotions is now captivated as a result of your trauma from your childhood. And that's why I spend so much time there, because I know how detrimental childhood trauma can be. And as you begin to heal, everyone around you will begin to heal. Now you're able to portray a spiritual energy that's inviting and warm and loving and kind and forgiving. Not only of those that have hurt you in the past, but forgiving of yourself. And millions of you, so many of you are tooling. You're like wrestling with forgiveness. You're wrestling not only with forgiving those that just rightfully inflicted trauma. Well, not rightfully, that's not the right word, but just viciously is the right word. Viciously inflicted trauma upon you when you were at the most vulnerable state in your life as a child. And some of those experiences are so painful that sometimes it's easier to just suppress it and just keep it moving, just keep pushing forward. But that is similar to like a car without an engine. Can that car move without an engine? Or trying to go on a 3-hour road trip and you're on empty. Your car is on empty. So when you have all of this suppressed emotional trauma from childhood that goes back to when you were like a child, That's years of suppressing that pain and that agony out of fear. And so now you fast forward, you're in the future because how time is moving. I say this every day. It's so amazing how quickly it's like the clock is ticking. It's like time is not waiting on you. Life is not waiting. And the more you're stuck in your mind, because your mind is stuck in the past. Your mind, your soul, your mind, your will, and your emotions have been taken hostage as a child. And it's still stuck there. There's parts of you that is still stuck. And your soul, which is your mind, your will, and your emotion, which is in the way you think, your consciousness, everything generates from that level. Every aspect of your being generates from that level of consciousness. So if your consciousness is still stuck 20 years in the past, whether if you are subconscious, you're aware, or not conscious, or conscious, whether you're subconscious or conscious, aware or not aware, your mind is still there. And you will find that as you continue to ignore this trauma that's in your body that you're holding on to, the more you hold on to this trauma that's in your spirit, your spirit is in your inner core, your middle section, your stomach. As you start to hold in on that trauma, it's like it imbalances all elements of your life, all elements of your existence, all elements of your humanity becomes very imbalanced. And you start to see that, oh my gosh, like I can't really function at my highest capacity because there's like weights that's holding you back from really being able to embrace the fullness of freedom, liberty, being able to release the trauma of your childhood. And I want you to journal today. This is your lesson, your assignment for today. I want you to journal. What would life be like for you? What would be that new beginning? What would that look like for you if you did not have the trauma? If you were not traumatized as a child? Envision, I want you to visualize, okay, how your life would be, not just materialistically, just spiritually, emotionally, psychologically. How do you think that you would feel if you were able to just snap your fingers and heal? Just say like if tomorrow you can just cross over and boom, you're healed. You're there. And this is just an exercise. It's not saying healing does not operate that way. But I just want you to be able to visualize what that will do for you. How would that make you feel? What challenges in your life you can conquer by facing your darkest fears, by facing those challenges in your childhood, by facing those challenges in your adulthood, by facing those challenges in your relationships, your marriages, your friendships, your co-worker relationships, your business relationships. Just think about how healing, transforming this will really impact your life positively, transformatively, intuitively. Think about this. So this will be your journal activity for today. And I really want you to take your time with this because again, if you're looking for a quick fix, this is not your channel because quick fixes only leads to more issues. So on REBIRTH-a Gift. On this channel, it's about digging deep. We're going deep. We're not no longer staying on the surface, because the surface level would be like, okay, just journal about what you think your life would be like in 5 years. I mean, how many of us have done that? Okay, let's be honest. Oh, well, in 5 years, I want to blah, blah, blah. You know, you make your list. And then 5 years comes and you're still, you know, something, you just forget about the list. You forget about what you're even thinking or what the goals were, what the aspirations were. And the reason why that is happening is because there are some deeper underlining traumatic issues, emotional issues, psychological issues, okay, that has happened as a result of your trauma. And what I mean by psychological issues, I'm not saying that you're a mentally insane person. What I'm talking about is that how it absolutely impacts your ability to really understand the psychological impacts of what happened. Because when you have suppressed trauma for so long, it becomes like second nature. You know, thank God that I'm not a smoker, but I've been around people who smoke. Think about it. If you smoke and it's like it's nature, it just becomes a habit to constantly just pick up the cigarette and smoke. It becomes a crutch. And sometimes unhealed trauma can become a crutch because it's easier, and it can become an addictive habit because it's easier for you to just go back to that state than to face it, than to every day work towards the healing. It's easier to just ignore it. It's easier to go back to just pretending that it didn't happen. Denial, cognitive dissonance. It's easier to go back to the state of just not thinking about it. So it's like that becomes second nature. It becomes a habit to now embrace the trauma, but still try to move forward. It's like trying to swim, carrying this trauma throughout the years. It's like trying to swim in a river. I'm just going to give it an example. It's like trying to swim in the Mississippi River with 10-pound weights in your hand. Maybe a little more weight. 50-pound weights in your hand. Is that even possible? That defies all rationalization and physics. You're going to immediately sink. You're going to drown. So think about this. It's like you're trying to carry this weight in your life that's weighing down, okay, your soul, your spirit, and then it starts to weigh down your body. You start to now hold this trauma in all areas of your physique, all areas of your physical body. Can you imagine? How can you move forward effectively like that? And I can remember personally when I was going through my healing process from trauma, complex trauma, my entire life when it comes to my childhood life, especially, because that is the foundation. That was my foundation. I didn't know anything else but that. And so many of you, you're feeling this as well. But sometimes it's just too scary. It could bring back so much bad memories that a lot of people, you just want to forget. I understand. You just want to push forward and act like that 50-pound weight is no longer with you. And it's impossible. You can't do it for so long. But as you continue to push forward, this is where it becomes more impossible. As you begin to move forward in life, and then the challenges of life begin to challenge you. Life be lifing. Okay? Life be lifing. If you guys understand, if you don't lived a little. As you continue to travel down that journey of life, and you now you're packing on more weights. And I'm not just talking about weights like your body, physical, because you can definitely add on more weight there. I'm talking about the emotional weight, the psychological weight, the spiritual weight of carrying this trauma. And so now you're just carrying this. And then as you have another experience, it could be a broken relationship. It could be a lost job or career. It could be something similar to the pandemic. That's all adding on to your weight that you've already was carrying as a result of your childhood trauma. And I'm painting this picture vividly so now you can really connect the dots and stop running. Because how are you going to transition into a new beginning without dealing with the weighty matters? The weighty matters is the childhood trauma. And this is what this channel is about. It's about just encouraging you to continue to heal, continue to do the work. Whatever has been working for you, if you have started this journey, you're like, okay, you started this journey, you're like, okay, now I am ready. Like I can't, and sometimes this can happen very vividly or expressively, like something just major just happens in your life. And as an adult, that now re-triggers the trauma. And if you're feeling a re-triggering, okay, this is the time that you need to really sit back. And when you're doing the journaling, I want you to think about what are those re-triggers? What happens that may have re-triggered your childhood trauma, but because you're failing to really realize that that's the foundation of your problem. And you're projecting it on everybody else's fault because it's too painful to go back to the foundation. And if you are experiencing that, this is where I want to interject and encourage you to reach out for help. There is a video that really explains, how to go about looking for help, how to really find the trusted person that you can now confide in, that really wants to see you heal and recover. Not these toxic individuals that are wearing masks, okay? Like Opal on the cover of this novel. They're wearing masks. So they really deep down inside, if you heal, if you start to change positively, it can trigger their own insecurities. So you have to now start to really do some self-evaluation and see, okay, who do I need to reach out to? Sometimes it could be a therapist. Sometimes it could be a pastor or a spiritual leader. Sometimes it can be a very close person to you, your wife or your husband. Or if you're blessed to have a big mama or a grandmother that's not going to gossip and spread that's not going to spread what you're confiding in to them. And this applies for everybody. That you want to find someone that that really wants to see your well-being, that really wants to see you heal and not continuously reiterating and supporting a toxic mindset or toxic behaviors. This is a time when you're being re-triggered, is to journal that, to think about it when you have the quiet time. Because again, this takes you pulling away from what is normal. This takes you going deeper and thinking deeper within yourself. and stop looking externally for the answers, but now going deeper in your soul, your mind, your will and emotion, digging deeper there, digging deeper in the spiritual side of things. If you have not gone to church in a long time or attend, they have so many digital or virtual church now. Whatever you need to do to start kind of waking up that aspect of yourself that's been sleeping. And there's a video called The Awakening. I want you to watch that because all of this is going to help you build this foundation that's now going to be very pivotal, excuse me, and transformational for you. So you want to do the necessary assessment. If you're feeling triggered, if you feel like emotional triggers, like if someone does something to you and immediately it's like, oh, okay, why are you feeling that? This causes for a higher level of self-awareness. And this is why the journaling, the quiet time, the walks alone, the time that you spend maybe reading a book that's really it's helping you to rebuild a better foundation. Like I said, visiting church, whatever your religious practice is, whatever that aspect that you reach out to when you're looking for help, but you don't want to, instead of reaching out in a toxic way, looking for toxic answers, like I mentioned before, but smoking cigarettes, instead of choosing the cigarettes, and now we're gonna try to choose another alternative. Even if you're struggling to let go of cigarettes or whatever you may have as an addiction. So now, okay, while you're dealing with the addiction, you can say, okay, now I'm going to choose something else that's going to help me to deal with this. And spiritual health is so transformative because it also helps to transform your spirit. That's your energy field. That's a part of you that really helps shape so many, it shapes so many different levels of your being. And that's your humanity. So even if you have to kind of like start doing things that's going to help build that up, therapy does it. Spiritual healing does it. Going to church, whatever your spiritual practice is. Some people meditate. Some people really prayer and prayer and reading sacred scriptures or sacred context or sacred books that's built on building up the humanity, the humanistic aspect of yourself. That's building up your spirit, building up your mind, building up your will. What do you want? What you don't want? Building up your emotional state. What's going to make me emotionally feel better? Not only for the moments, but to heal. What's going to emotionally help me to heal? And sometimes you have to do this in therapy. For some people, therapy is not effective. And I've came across a lot of people that have been there. So if therapy has not been really your thing, then that's okay. I'm an advocate for what you see is helping you to heal and recover from trauma. Not keep repeating the same cycle of the trauma over and over in your mind until when you're re-triggered, it's just like it just keeps going. No, stopping the pattern and now being able to take a seat back and just really reflect. This is what you're going for. This is the level of transformational healing that you're pursuing. And this takes time. It takes energy. It takes effort. It takes prioritizing this process. It takes healing and recovering and putting that energy into yourself. because it's just so long you can pour into other people. Then if you continuously to pour out and you're not really pouring back in, you're not doing the work, you're not healing, you're not transforming, you're not reflecting, you're not really going on a deeper spiritual journey. And this rebirth journey is spiritual in nature. It's so spiritual because you have to now, you're really being forced to now face your darkest fears, your darkest times and seasons in your life. But as you start to face it, that's when you start to gain more power. As you start to face it, that's when you start to gain more understanding. As you start to conquer it, that's when you start to gain more wisdom. As you begin to heal and transform, now you have the knowledge, you have the understanding to now I can teach another generation. Now I will know that, okay, when I'm being triggered. Now I will have the self-awareness on when I need to pour back into myself. Now I will have a self-awareness of what is my passion? What is my purpose in life? You will have a deeper understanding of humanistic aspects of yourself. What is making you human? What are you experiencing that is now causing you to re-examine your own humanity? And childhood trauma, and that actually is categorized in so many different elements. That's why I childhood trauma, but the main objective that I'm really encouraging transformation for is complex trauma. And under the umbrella or the category of complex trauma is childhood trauma, divorce trauma, relationship trauma, psychological trauma, health and disease, or sickness types of trauma. All of this is trauma. Abandonment trauma, rejection trauma, domestic violence is trauma, sexual assault or sexual molestation, all this is trauma. So this goes under the category of complex trauma. And I'm just listing a few. But this type of trauma causes so much devastation in the life of the adult years down the road. And that's why it's so important to disrupt the pattern, to disrupt the generational pattern of dysfunctionality, because 100% of the trauma was absolutely passed down to you from the generation before. And if you just think about it, and if any of you are blessed to have a grandmother or a great grandmother or that uncle or that auntie that will tell you the story or the history of your family, it is rooted in trauma, multi-generational trauma, and interrelational trauma, family trauma. I mean, go back, because what this will actually do is really force you to see that the trauma that you experienced in your childhood was passed down to you, because the generation before you did not do the work. They did not transform the pain and the suffering. And there's so many different reasons why that didn't happen. The whole point of bringing that up is not to blame, because we don't blame on this channel, okay? We understand. So it's for you to understand, okay, so if my mom dealt with this type of trauma, or my dad, he dealt with that type of trauma. So identification is very vital to transformation. So I want you to journal as well. Go back and think about, what was the trauma that my family experienced? Now, in your time, think about the trauma in your age, in your generation. Think about the trauma that you've experienced. Now, I want you to think about what you do not want your children to experience. Do you want them to continue to experience that trauma that you experienced? That your mom or your dad or your grandmother or your great grandfather? Do you want that trauma to continue? Do you want that multi-generational trauma to continue that goes throughout the generations? No, because it defeats the purpose. It defeats the whole new beginning, the refreshing experience that not only you will experience, but your generation that comes after you will experience. So the more time you spend wasting not dealing with these issues, the more time that you're wasting that's going to significantly impact the next generation. It's going to significantly impact your children. If you cannot make a powerful spiritual and soul shift now, this is going to impact not only you, but your children, your children's children. Because trauma, and this is something that I found so, it was like a huge epiphany for myself. Because one reason why I say do not blame, we don't blame on this channel, is because if you're going through any type of childhood trauma, that's natural. You're going to figure out, you're going to blame yourself. Because you had no one in your childhood that really explained that that was not your fault. Like, what happened to you was not as a result of something you did. The trauma that you experienced being inflicted in your household upon your mom, upon your dad, or upon your family, or in your some of this dysfunctional family dynamics can go far, like as far back as you can remember. But when are you going to say that now in my generation with me, I'm not going to tolerate this anymore? Like, I'm going to do the work first on myself. I'm going to sit down and start to really think about these things, start to pray through those difficult moments, start to meditate during those difficult moments, start to ask and reach out for the right information, the right help. I'm going to break the silence of hiding the trauma. And that's why I speak out on this channel, not only as a very educated and intelligent woman and a business professional, but I speak out on this because I know how detrimental this type of trauma is to the psyche, to the body, to the soul and the spirit. And all of these realms are very vital to your humanity. And if the cycle does not break, if it's not significantly transformed and transitioned, then your children are going to suffer as a result of passing down these traits, passing down these behaviors, passing down this toxicity that you know was very detrimental for you. But because you choose to be in denial, you continue to want to believe a fantasy that my family or the generation before me, they were okay. Well, you know that was not true. So there has to be a greater level of identification of what was the trauma. Who was the person that caused the trauma in my family? What was the darkness? What was the darkness that caused so much pain and suffering in my family? And as a African American woman, I don't shy away from the complexities of slavery. That was very much so inflicted upon our generation, and we're still dealing with that trauma. The systemic trauma, the health in the health system, the educational, the poverty is still part of the infrastructure of our society, of our community. So we're not sitting here being ignorant of the devices of darkness. But now that we have identified that, okay, we know slavery impacted us as a collective community, as a society, as a race of people, as an ethnic group. We know that. We understand the ancestral lineage that devastatingly impacted us. It's not saying you don't acknowledge this, but as you now think about your generation right now, and the generation that you can vividly think back on, meaning that you don't have to go through ancestral.com. You don't have to go and ask grandma and grandpa, rest their souls if they're still here. But now you can just go and look at or examine your mom, examine your dad, examine your aunties and your uncles. Or for my instance, I didn't have personally blood relatives because I was adopted. So the journey that I went on was just a result of examining my life. So some of you may have to just examine your own life. What are the fruits of that trauma? What were the mistakes that you made going back and re-examining your childhood? And that is why in the novel, the first part of the novel is conception. And that's going back to the beginning, because you will not be able to progress effectively, efficiently, and transformatively in a healthy manner without first addressing your trauma issues in childhood. And no matter how much you run, no matter how much you hide, no matter how much you deny, no matter how much you try to say, well, mama did her best. Well, I'm pretty sure mama did do her best. I'm pretty sure based on what you know, daddy did do his best. But what does that mean for you? Are you now passing down the trauma of that previous generation? And I know this is not a very popular topic, but this is something that really needs to be addressed, not only in the African American community, not only in my community, but also in all nations. Because I've looked at the statistics on childhood abuse, domestic violence, abuse against women. It is absolutely horrific. It is terrifying. And it has shown that as a collective, in a society, in the world, in the economic climax, in a societal or international scope of things, all nations, all tongues are dealing with this trauma. So there comes a point where that's why I don't blame, even with everything that I've gone through personally in my life, I had to take responsibility. I had to take accountability, but I did that with intelligence by being able to self-analyze after years and years and years of long suffering. And that is an attribute. That is a character, a positive character trait. But if you can reduce that time and still build your character and still build your life back up in a manner that now you can be transformative. Now you can pour back into your children and your grandchildren. Now you can be in the moment of enjoying them and not dealing with so many toxic issues. So this whole concept that the African American community, and I'm going here right now because I feel led. And all of you know that on this channel, the spirit leads, okay? So not only in the African American community, we are experiencing this. This is across the board. So it comes to a point where there's no longer like looking at that ethnic group and saying, well, that's them. That's not me. You know, that's them. Or that's how they do things. That does not relate to me. But no, go back into that ancestral line. Go back into that generation and see if that's true. It does not matter if you're Caucasian. It does not matter if you're African American. It does not matter if you are Hispanic, Asian, outside of tradition and culture. Go back to, regardless if you're Arabic, regardless of the religious practices of Christianity, Hinduism, Muslim, regardless of any of that, we're setting aside the traditions, the cultural aspect. We're setting it aside and we're just looking into a very honest introspection of what really happened in my family lineage. What was the trauma that happened? And there's so much shame, not only in the African American community, but there's so much shame in all nations and tongues and ethnic groups. But there comes a point where when you think of your own life, outside of the traditions and the cultural implications, you're just thinking about your life. And again, it's not about looking back to blame anyone, to shame anyone, or to cause any more confusion in your family. This is simply just give you an analysis. So now you can take what you have examined and now figure out, okay, how does that relate to my life? What am I experiencing now in this present moment? What was my childhood trauma that I experienced? And now I'm going to choose a new beginning. I'm going to choose no longer to allow this trauma to define me. I'm going to choose no longer to allow the stigmas and the stereotypes of my culture, despite where it resonated from, to define me. I'm going to face the realities of my own humanity, my own soul state, my own spiritual state, my own emotional state. I'm going to take responsibility of my own psychological state. And now I'm going to embrace a transformational new beginning where I can now understand that those individuals that had the challenges, not only did they have the challenges of my generation, but the generation before them and before them and before them. They had challenges that was not only financial, okay, but it was spiritual, it was psychological, it was emotional, it was behavioral. Now, as you start to examine that, it really, I'm telling you, you're going to have a powerful epiphany. You're going to have a powerful epiphany moment. Not only that, you're going to have a powerful transformational mindset shift, a powerful paradigm shift. Because now you're going to see that, okay, you know what? All of this that happened to me was not just because I was making wrong decisions. There was something that was that was something deeper going on in my life that goes back generations. And it does not matter how wealthy you are, how much influence you have, and those are all great attributes to say you're wealthy, or you come from a wealthy family, or you're influential. Great. But now we need to take a deeper dive into, okay, if I put that aside, how am I just as a person, as a human being? How do I feel? How do I relate to others? How do I relate to myself? Am I now the carrier of the shame? It's not saying that you're shaming anyone, but now you become the carrier of the shame of the generation before you. And this can also correlate to now you're seeking. Sometimes the pain can be so detrimental because if no one ever takes responsibility in the family lineage, in the ancestral aspects of whatever culture you come from, if no one ever takes responsibility, no one ever steps up and try to change or transform the dynamic of the family, that shame is passed down. And it could be consciously or subconsciously, but it is passed down. And because you can't talk to certain people about certain things. You can't have an open conversation because they are not capable. They can't. And they chose to embrace a false sense of self. They chose to embrace deceptional mindsets. But now you can choose to say, okay, I'm going to see it for what it is. It's not blaming them. It's not shaming them, but I'm going to see it for what it really is. So now I can be free. So now I can really embrace liberty in my own life. So now I can embrace and impart a higher vibration of spiritual energy to my generation, to my children. Because I'm willing. This is the mindset shift I'm talking about. So now you begin to understand that now you are willing because you have the understanding that what happens in your life was not just as a result of just simple bad decisions that you made. There was a foundation that was laid before you. And that foundation depends on how good it was laid or how horrible it was laid. If you was raised in a very dysfunctional dynamic and it was multi-generational, that is the foundation that you're dealing with. And so now you have to do the heavy lifting to uproot and to eliminate those thinking patterns that is no longer serving not only yourself, it's no longer serving the collective aspect of humanity. Because we are a communal, we are a collective species. And so now you have to say, okay, this is not working for me no more. Because, even if grandma, mama, daddy, auntie, whoever was before me, however, whatever happens, okay, we know I already dealt with slavery. We understand that the injustice in society, we know that it was rooted in so much disparity and inequality or inequality. We understand that there was so much systemic issues. But now it comes a point where you're not ignoring the truth. You have identified that truth. But now you have to say or think, how does that correlate to me? How am I going to now become the best version of not only myself, but the best version of who I envision based on what I was created for? And purpose starts to be redefined in your life. And this is part of the powerful paradigm shift that I'm speaking of. Now, purpose becomes more vivid, that you understand that you becoming stronger and powerful and transformational and more empathetic and more compassionate. As you begin to heal and transform, you start to see that the main reason for all the trauma that was passed down to you from all the other generations of those that did not do the work, they did not do the heavy lifting. They did what they could. Unfortunately, now you walked into a life that had very faulty foundations. And I want you to give yourself a break and say, I'm no longer going to blame myself for things. We don't blame others. We take responsibility. So you're no longer going to blame yourself, but you're going to understand and now have more wisdom and compassion. And this is part of that powerful paradigm shift that you are embarking upon. And if it's just too scary to revisit some of the traumas of your past, my heart goes out to you and I understand. But little by little, you have to chip away at it. Every day, do an activity that's going to help you heal, that's going to help you transform, that's going to help you be better, that's going to help you be a better entrepreneur, that's going to help you be a better career professional, that's going to help you be a better woman, that's going to help you be a better man, that's going to help you be a better father, a better mother, a better grandfather, a better grandmother, a better auntie, a better uncle, a better cousin. And as we, as a collective, start to do better, we start to choose every single day, I'm going to now do the heavy lifting. Because my empathy and my compassion, not only for myself that I have gained as a result of the understanding that the generations before in so many levels did not do the work. But now I am conscious of this. Now your mind shifts to say, I'm now conscious of this. I am aware now. I have a deeper level of awareness to say, okay, now I will start to do the heavy lifting. Because it's now necessary. Because I can't continue to resist the transformation, the shift, the vibrational shift that's happening in the earth. I can no longer just sit here on the sidelines and just allow life to pass me by. It's that now I have to do the work. And oh wow, the work is work. Let me tell you, I understand it's difficult. But it's so transformational and so rewarding when you put in the heavy lifting, when you now focus more energy on healing and restoration and reducing. When you focus on healing and restoration, it reduces the anxiety and the stress. It doesn't happen overnight. But as you start to pour, as you start to purge, that's the right word, as you start to purge out all of that trauma, all of that emotional trauma, all of that soul trauma, all of that spiritual trauma that you have just suppressed, you begin to see that it was worth it. That I'm now going to embrace the new beginning. That I'm now going to see it for what it was. I'm no longer going to be in denial and say, well, grandma and grandpa, they didn't really do, everything. Like, I'm thankful for what they did do. Okay. And many of you know that I talk about Big Mama all the time on this channel. Go back, watch the other videos. And Big Mama did her best. And that was kind of like my grandmotherly figure. But there is things that Big Mama missed. But what Big Mama imparted in me helped me to build a better foundation in my life. And a huge aspect of that was the love for God, the love for the creator of the heavens and the earth, the reverence, fear of God. As a Christ follower, that is my path. That is my journey. But for you, your path, your journey is going to be highly impacted upon your culture and your subculture. And I want you to start to really think back and say, well, where do I see the loopholes at? And not run from the challenge of the pain. Woo! Yes, no longer running from the challenges of the pain of the past, of the generations before us. Because as I get older and I get more mature and I heal and I start to read and educate myself on so many different levels, spiritual, emotional, psychological, it was a whole holistic approach that God, the Infinite One, took me on a healing journey. And this is the same healing journey I'm encouraging you to go on, to embrace, invite the creator that created you into this process, and allow yourself to be humbled in spirit, to say, I can't carry it on my own. My grandmother couldn't carry it. My mama couldn't carry it. My daddy couldn't carry it. My grandfather couldn't carry it. So why do I feel like I have to carry it alone? And this is what I want to really encourage you to think about. Is that so far on this journey, have you been able to really carry that burden of a faulty foundation that was passed down to you from the previous generation? Are you going to embrace this new beginning? Are you going to be able to see that this is bigger than just myself? That as you begin to heal and transform, you start to see that this has more to do with my beautiful daughter, my handsome little man. This has everything to do with my beautiful little niece, my little cute cousin, or my little cute nephew, or your animals. Because I mention animals on here too. Because many of you are animal lovers. I understand. But if you all wreck, if you all, excuse me, if all of you are all out of whack, meaning that you're not at your highest potential, okay? Everything around you feels that because we are energetic beings, we're spiritual beings. So everything around you is impacted, regardless of you're sleeping or you're aware of it or you're not. But there comes a level of higher consciousness where you wake up and you start to unfold and unravel the complexities of the generation before you, the cultural aspects, the spiritual aspects, where you're given a really powerful spiritual foundation that left you feeling energized and empowered, where you're given a very um, strong mindset, psychological foundation, where now I can think. I may be weak in this area, but intellectually, I could think things through. And I want you to really examine these things because your transformational process is a holistic process. And this is something that I really learned on my journey is that as I started to focus on one area, I started to see, okay, well, that area there, I need a little more work there. As I started to focus, for instance, as an example, as I personally started to focus on my education, okay, and I was just really so determined to graduate with degrees, I started to see my emotional side was imbalanced, that I needed to deal with the traumas of childhood. So as you start to focus on one level, you start to see that the other level needs to be elevated as well. The same as I start to heal spiritually, I started to see that physically, gosh, like I could go to the gym. Or I could put back those cookies, okay, or that. Well, my thing is chocolate, so and fried chicken, okay. I can put. I need to put that down. But as you will see, is that it's all a holistic process. Healing, the transformational journey is holistic. Embracing this new beginning is holistic. And you have to start to think of it that way. And it's not to really overbear you with, like, oh, it's something else I gotta do. No, allow your spirit to guide you as you connect back to God, the infinite one, the creator. You start to have very honest heart conversations, meditative conversations from the heart. Because one thing that I really acknowledge and recognize in this spiritual journey, in this transformational journey, is that as I start to just express my real feelings in prayer, in meditation, in those quiet times, as I start to get back in touch with my soul and express that openly, not hiding your true emotions, because first of all, if God created you, God already knew what you were going to experience. So now the invisible God, okay, that's the God, the infinite one. He's invisible. And I say he because I'm a Christ follower. But as just a synergy of energy that represents true purity and goodness, that represents the true light, the transformative light, the light that created every single thing. As you start to just communicate that back, and that could be form of writing your emotions down. That could be a form of just speaking the emotions in prayer, thinking the emotions in meditation. But it's connecting back to what you really feel. And this is the part where it's no shame, because every single one of us, every human being has gone through something that you're not proud of. That you said, oh my gosh, like if I could do that again, and that just shows that you're growing because you're able to reflect. But you'll just say, if I could do that again, I would do this. I would do that very differently. So as you start to reflect, you start to see, as you start to have those heart soul conversations and pour out your true emotions, and you will start to see that, okay, like, wow, I feel better. I feel a little lighter. I'm starting to heal faster. I'm starting to get progress faster in my healing journey from this childhood trauma. And as you start to really recognize that there's so many layers to this, like what you've gone through, there's so many layers, that this was not just your own bad decisions. The foundation that was laid from the ones before you, there were some cracks in it. And that was because they had their own traumas, their own issues, internal issues, spiritual issues, psychological issues. So as you start to reflect, it's just so you can heal and identify and recognize, to give yourself some level of compassion, to give yourself a higher level of compassion. And that's why it's so important to do that. And I know that just personally, what I was really going through this journey, this healing journey, it was years. But as I started to make progress, it was like I could embrace the simple things in life again. I could see a powerful shift energetically or spiritually. I can see a powerful shift just in the achievements that I was pursuing, despite the foundation being so cracked. Despite the foundation being so faulty. But as God began to really just show me, and throughout the years, I remember just feeling, even though it would be a very dark moment as a child and as a young woman that I was going through, I would see that it was God. I could see the light. And that's what I want to encourage you to, is that the more you push past the darkness, not only in your own minds, but in your emotions and the darkness around you, focus on the light, focus on the goodness, focus on the release, because that was very powerful and pivotal for me, was just focusing on releasing through writing. And that was one of the main reasons for the novel, through journaling, through expressing those emotions in a very honest way, dialogue, conversations with God. And you're going to see it's going to be transformative for you. And this is when you're in your quiet space. This is when you're in your alone time. This is when you're in your safe space, because I know so many of you are dealing with very toxic situations that you can't just, you have to really create time or have that safe space. But I want to encourage you to do that for yourself, so you can release some of these emotions, to communicate with God in a way that's emotional and connected to your soul state. And again, your soul state is your mind, your will, and your emotions, your consciousness. And I want to encourage you to have these conversations. And if you haven't gotten your novel yet, I want you to get your novel ASAP. And I want to read a little section here. Uh, of how of just how expressing um because this is a main character. Opal is the main character, so she's expressing some of her thoughts. Okay, this is in the character. I want to really specify, this is the character. Okay, and in the novel, you're going to see that throughout the novel, there's going to be sections where Opal is just letting it rip, like she's expressing her deepest emotional state. So she's being very open and honest in her journaling. And that is something that I always did. And I'm thankful. That was a lifesaver. Like my English teacher had us journal all the time, not knowing that that would really be a a very powerful tool in my life, not only in when it came to writing, like my skill set for writing also tremendously excelled and just got better because of the ability to be honest. Honesty in writing is so important. And in journaling, this is just your thoughts, okay? And in the main character, this is something that Opal did to help her to heal, to help her to release the anxiety and the depression that she was experiencing, because in her family dynamic, there was no place for that. And if you guys understand what I'm speaking of, if, you know, you're raised in that African American family or that highly cultural family where traditions are so um they are so supported over just the humanistic side, just meaning that just acknowledging you as a human being, just wanting to really embrace and understand how you feel. It's like a lot of households in so many different cultures, and for me it was the African American community, is that you did not experience this telling you how you feel. Who was there to listen? And so many of you grew up in this type of environment, and you know you don't know that it's not right or it's not healthy until you learn otherwise. Okay, so let me go here. um I'm trying to find a good section here. Okay, so we're going to go to page 6. I'm just going to read this little section so that you can get a similar, maybe this will help, just a vivid understanding of how the journaling should be, how it should feel. And again, this is not my personal journaling. This is a journaling of the character and the setting and the issues that she was dealing with, okay? As she was experiencing this dysfunctional dynamic of a family, that she's trying to understand why she feels so isolated and like the black sheep, or the one that's the oddball, you know, the one that is not quite so in touch with everyone else. She's like the outsider, okay? So the vicious and undignified night haunts an awakened existence, unable to escape its significance in dreams either. That is why I must feel the crippling pain and vital to understand the severity of an obtrusive struggle. Hopefully, revealing decades of hidden truths will help heal a divided existence. Finally received the freedom to move past his dreadful nights that united a coexistence of hell on earth, a place of purgatory unsuccessfully attempted to escape for years. Revenge has captivated a broken soul. Retribution for a lost inner child screaming to be rescued and heard, cultivated in a silenced voice, one that must be heard. Remaining discreet is no longer an option. So Opal is now experiencing a very vivid. She's recalling an event that I've read previously, and I'm not going to repeat that. Go back and watch the other video. Um, but she's really experiencing this event that really has shaken her humanity, shaken her reality of what she thought was true or not true. And it says here, a lost inner child. And this is something that I want to really, I've stressed over and over again on this channel, is that the lost inner child, the childhood trauma really, it really destroys the innocence in your childhood. And that innocence is only recaptivated or restored is when you go through healing. And all she could think about as an adult is revenge. And this is something that, on my channel, on REBIRTH-a Gift, we keep it very transparent because I believe that healing is all about being real, being authentic about what you experience, is sharing those emotions with someone that you feel that you can safely express that to. And for me personally, it was God. I prayed and I expressed a lot of that emotional trauma to God. And that was transformational for me because I had no one else to communicate it to. And as she grapples with this revenge, and that's something, another thing I want to point out is that it's very normal, okay, to feel before you're healed and transformed is to want some level of vindication, to want some level of revenge. And revenge and vindication, it can go hand in hand, but revenge is a little like you want to inflict pain, and vindication is more like you want some type of retribution for what you went through. And that's why it's so important to understand the foundation, okay? When you have that faulty foundation, you might as well don't even waste your time going back into the generation to get answers. Because the only way meaning that you're going back to someone that's going to tell you or embrace the truth. It's not going to happen. And you're just going to find yourself more enraged or more angry about not having the justice. Okay. And that's very, very normal feeling, is that when you have experienced childhood trauma on this level, is that you want someone to acknowledge it and also pay for it. And so many people in family trauma, if you experience this, sometimes it can be so complex where it just becomes a burden, not only for you, but it becomes a burden for everyone else. And I know that just as someone that has gone through a lot of trauma, is that this can be very complex. It's not simple. And it took me years and years and years of just healing and transformation and growth to understand that this is a very complex issue. And as you do not heal, it can negatively impact you as well on so many levels: relational, financial, spiritual, psychological. And as you heal, you begin to gain back so many aspects of your being. Okay? So if people realize what was going on in that horrid pale blue house, would not believe how disgusting the hidden world was sustained. Really believe it existed as a portal for dark energies and entities to freely enter and exit. Petrified and sickened by the place, forced to call home after succumbing to an ill fate is a waking nightmare. Times when the surroundings were unrecognizable, unable to acknowledge constant change in locations, or the unfamiliar faces forced to call family. Alone, often awoke, frightened from a dream, looking around confused at the walls and furniture and wondering whose house living in. Sometimes would crawl around the beds from lower dimensional encounters enthralled in extreme spiritual terror and end up completely on the opposite side on the floor, absolutely in a reverse position from where I fell asleep. A never-ending internal torture. Sleep should be rest for a weary soul, but it was snatched away by sleepless, tantalizing nightmares. Dreams seem to get intertwined with reality, enduring a complicated situation. Paralyzed in a state of bewilderment, unable to rationalize a rapidly diminishing cognitive state of a haggard existence, still too immature to comprehend the significance of one simple question: why? So, as the main character, you see she's journaling her sleepless nights. Opal is really fighting spiritually, internally. As you see, she's not getting sleep. It's very difficult for her to really grapple with the severity of the situations that's going on in this pale blue house. Okay. And this pale blue house is really represents the prison that she felt that she was involved in. She felt like it was a prison, um, as a result of the trauma that was being inflicted in the home. And many of you can relate to this. You can relate to not really having that peace, not really having that serenity when you sleep, because the unhealed trauma wounds is really just being relived in your dream realm. Okay, it's being relived in the realm when you're supposed to be resting, but there still is no rest for a weary soul. And this is what trauma does. It causes the soul to be weary. That's the mind. Your will and your emotions will become very weary from the childhood trauma, from the trauma of the past, okay, or from the experiences that you have gone through. Dreams seem to get intertwined with reality and during a complicated situation. And so the vindication that as you read the novel, the first section is conception, but as you read the novel, you will see that the vindication comes in her healing. Okay. So the vindication comes in her actual healing and restoration. And that's when that now, that does not happen in the very beginning. You're taken on a journey of what happened. What was the root issues? What was the root problems of the protagonist, of Opal, the protagonist, excuse me. What was the root issues? And this is what, in the very beginning of the novel, in part one, which is conception, you start to vividly see this, that there's a war going on internally. And as she's going through this war, she's wondering why. Why is this? Why do I have to go through this? Why can't I just have a simple life? Why I cannot sleep? Why can I not have peace? Why is all of this chaos going on around me? Why am I not getting someone to come and rescue? And this is all a part of that revenge and this vindication that she seeks, okay? Although an intuitive child sensed the dire situation of walking through the doors, entering a house every day, growing up felt like prison and not home. So although she was a very intuitive child, okay, meaning that despite the trauma that's being experienced in this household, she knew that it didn't feel right. She knew that it felt like a prison. And this is something that I want you to really think about when it comes to your own life, when you're reading the novel. What are those things that felt like a prison to you as a child? What was the aspects of your own childhood that you can resonate with that felt like imprisonment? Helplessly and consistently immersed in reactive state of fight or flight senses became heightened at an early age. So that whole fight and flight, you understand, when you're in extreme uh, fear states, you either go into fight or flight. And this is two states that Opal, the character, experienced on a daily basis. The fight or the flight. Okay? And this started at an early age. So just think about that if you have continuously been in a fight or flight existence since childhood, your entire nervous system is completely imbalanced. So your nervous system, meaning that your sympathetic system, your central nervous system, everything, your adrenaline system, all of this is at a heightened state. And this causes a lot of, it induces the trauma. And millions of you are experiencing this. You're experiencing this level of fight and flight, and you've been doing this since childhood. And so could sense a toxic room or emotional instability as negative energies vibrated stronger and stronger due to extreme unhealthy living arrangements was an overwhelming yet normal way of life. And as you read the novel, as a writer, okay, this is just this is just how I write. I don't use I, we, those types of nouns and pronouns. I just think that it's redundant. So when you read it, you will see, you won't say I, we, me. It's you will see that a little, and that's mostly, well, you will see that in the actual dialogue between the characters. So as you read, you will get used to that. Okay, that's just my writing style. I don't like a lot of I's, and I don't like that redundancy. So, but you will get used to that. I just wanted to point that out. If you see that as a little difference, okay? So, could sense a toxic room or emotional instability as negative energies vibrated stronger and stronger due to extreme unhealthy living arrangements was an overwhelming yet normal way of life. Immaturity of a child's mind cannot understand the magnitude of this existence, but left a loneliness that only the broken can fathom. Chaotic minds filled with complexities. So, as you go through this trauma, and as you see when you're reading the novel, you will really relate, okay? Because it was written from, and me as an author, as someone that has gone through extreme amount of childhood trauma. And I wanted to really portray that in the novel because I wanted to feel authentic to you. I wrote it with a very specific target audience in mind. Was those that have gone through intense emotional pain. And the reason why it's so vivid is so that you can now have that sense of it will become more personal and relative to your situation. And this was very intentional because I wanted you to feel, I wanted you to be seen through the character. Because I've read books and, I love to read, I love to write, but it was just always like, that really don't resonate with me, but I like the story. I wanted this to be a book that you, as a person that specifically has gone through trauma, especially childhood trauma, to really get your story shared. Okay. And as you read the book, you will see the reflection of yourself in the character. And that was very intuitive and very intentional. Okay. So if you are triggered, okay, I'm going to put this disclaimer. If you are triggered by the novel, I want you to really journal those triggers, okay? Because part of this is to um as you start to see your reflection in the character, it's going to automatically kind of bring up some emotions. And as those emotions come up, I need you to journal that. I need you to share that in conversation through prayer and meditation, or share that in therapy if you choose that path, or share that in coaching sessions if you choose that path, or share that with your pastor or your spiritual leader. Okay, because the whole point is to pull up and out those things that's deep embedded within you as a result of your trauma. So there's just two things I want to point out there. I'm not going to read any more right now of the novel, but I want you to be able to really resonate with that my writing style is very vivid, but I do not use a lot of I. So if you see that not in there, it's okay. You will get used to my writing style. There is a lot of journaling in there, so you will see as Opal journals, she's expressing, different things that you've experienced, and it's all in a way that it's not from the narrative of her being a child. It's her as an adult, as she's reflecting back into her childhood. Okay, and and I want to encourage you is that it's a very quick read. Okay, the book may seem a little intimidating at first, but as you read it, you're going to see it's quick. And the flow is very natural and very descriptive, and it's going to captivate you and pull you into a story that you see yourself in, that you see your own reflection in. And as a writer, I just thought that that was so important because when I was growing up, I didn't have that type of book. And if I had this book growing up, and especially my young adult years and my teenage years, it would have been absolutely transformational. And that's why I wrote it. And I'm thankful that the gift that God gave me, I utilized it for good. I utilized it in a way to help other young women, other individuals that have experienced any form of trauma, especially childhood trauma, to find their voice again, to find their authenticity again, to rediscover that aspect of their selves that was stolen. Okay, and there are so many losses that you experience as a result of childhood trauma, complex trauma, and the novel deals with a lot of multi-generational trauma, as I was mentioning in the first part of the video. In the video, was that this book, um, it really, um, it really moves past so many barriers of race and ethnic background or religious background. It just deals with core issues. And that was also very intentional because I knew that as a writer that if I was not able to share the story um, in a way that was relatable and felt real and authentic, that I was going to miss captivating and in positively influencing the reader into change. And that's what it's all about. It's about influencing the reader to change, to look within, to embrace their experiences in a positive way that induces or creates transformation from within. And that's what you're going to really start to see the the overall tone of the novel, but also the overall feel of the novel that is highly emotional, and it's highly descriptive, and it's highly intuitive, and it's highly spiritual. And you're going to really want to read more. And as you read it, there's going to be times where you're going to cry. There's going to be times where it's going to emotionally cause you, or emotionally support you in ways like if you would have someone there kind of like going through that process with you. And that was very, again, intricately designed in the novel, is to help you go through the process. As you read her story, as you relate to Opal's story, you will see your story in her story. Okay. That was powerful. As you relate to Opal's story, and that is the main character here. As you relate to her story, you will see your own story. And again, that was written for a very specific target audience. These are individuals and women, and even men, because you will see the male perspective as well in the characters, how they thought about Opal, who really struggled with a lot of insecurities as a result of the childhood trauma. And this is a layer that, again, I never saw in novels. I never saw this in books where I could really see the insecurities um, vividly expressed and see the perspective of the male character. And you will see as she struggles and grapples with her own insecurities, um, her own distortions of who she is, her own distortions of her identity as a result of just everything that she gone through in her childhood. Whew. And it's heavy. I know, you guys, it's a heavy novel. It was written to really inspire, motivate, and encourage change and transformation. So it is heavy. You are going to cry. You are going to be emotionally triggered sometimes. You are going to be angry at the antagonist. And it was all done by design because I know what my target audience, my readers are thinking. I know you because I am you as a writer. So I knew what you were thinking. I knew how you felt. I knew what your thought process is and how your relationships are impacted, how your career and your sense of self-esteem is impacted as a result of this childhood trauma. Okay, so I am going to end this in a prayer, and I just want to really pray for you guys. And I know that this is going to be very transformational experience. I am continuously going on my transformational journey. I am so excited for myself, and I'm very excited for you because this is going to be the beginning of a new beginning for you. Okay? This is going to be the beginning of a very new beginning for you. And this, if you're male or female, okay? If you are a woman and you have gone through some very detrimental life experiences, if you are a male that you know someone that has gone through, a female, a mom, a mom, a aunt, a sister, a cousin, a girlfriend, a ex-wife, a wife, okay? So this is going to be educational, inspirational across the boards. So I want you to really, I'm going to pray. And so, Father God, in the mighty name of Jesus, I thank you for this channel. I thank you for REBIRTH-a Gift. This was such a transformational experience as you led me to write this novel to positively impact and influence the nations, to positively impact and influence the generation to come, and also my generation. Father God, I just thank you that my gifts of writing and storytelling has been able to be utilized for your glory to help humanity, to help individuals that have gone through some very traumatic experiences, that feel alone and isolated and abandoned and rejected, not only from them, from their families, but from just from society, that they're grappling with this trauma, and they're looking, they're seeking answers, they're seeking healing and restoration, they're seeking to have their own rebirth experience. I pray that you touch them right where they are, that I release an anointing upon them right now that's going to be absolutely transformative, absolutely transformational. As they continue on this journey, as they embrace this new beginning of healing and restoration, as they go through life and they continue to elevate and excel, I just thank you, Father God, that you are helping them. You're reaching them in the place of needs right now where they need your guidance. They need your to feel your touch. They need to feel your peace and your love. And I pray that that barrier that is blocking them from reaching and having that heart conversation with you is torn down. It is destroyed as they release their emotional pain and traumas to you, as they begin to increase that dialogue, that conversation with you, that you are right there with them, waiting for them to just say the first word, to speak the first word, to make that move to coming back to you, because you are the infinite one. You are the one that created the heavens and the earth. You are the eternal one. And I just thank you, Father God, that you are making a way out of no way, that so many feel trapped emotionally, psychologically, physically. They feel trapped, but God, I know that you're sending the rod of their strength right now in this novel, Father God, that it's not just a book, it's not just words on a page, but this is a transformational experience that you guided me through, that you helped me to go through. And as I went through this transformational experience, you vividly gave me these characters, and you vividly gave me this setting, and you vividly gave me this storyline that was intricately and delicately written to inspire those that have gone through some very dark experiences. And I know that you're there with them. You're just waiting for them to take the first step to their healing journey, to take the first step through their transformational journey, to take the first step to just reach out and break the silence of their trauma and their pain and their suffering, because you have given them a way to escape, a way to heal, an avenue where they will not feel alone on this journey, but they will feel supported in this journey. They will feel supported by you, and also by me as an author, as in a person, a woman that has endured some very excruciating painful events. But I'm here to say that if they I am a living witness and testimony through your power, through the love of Yahshua, through the love of Jesus, through your eternal spirit, that you can help them, no matter what the religious background, no matter what the cultural background, or their tradition or the ethnicity, that you're there to help them through this healing transformational journey that's going to absolutely catapult them into their destiny as your chosen ones, as your chosen vessel, that you wish to not only impact their lives, but also as they heal and transform, they will become empowered and be able to impact the lives of those around them, in their communities, and those that they have been chosen to help. They will begin to see the light of your power, of your glory, of your majesty. They will begin to see the true light and they will begin to be drawn closer to that true, pure light of just love for the humanity of those that have gone through all of these issues, that still may be going through the traumas of life. And I pray, God, that you will continue to use me to help in any way that you see fit, to help those that are still battling depression, anxiety, and trauma, and they're still dealing with the psychological impacts of these experiences. And I am your humble servant. And I just thank you that you graced me with the gift. And God, that you gave me the wisdom to use this to help those that have experienced so much trauma. And I pray for divine healing and restoration upon their lives. I pray for a God completion in this process, in this transformational journey. I pray that as they completely read the novel, that their lives will be transformed in ways that they never imagined, that their lives will be transformed in ways that you already predestined for it to be transformed. And I pray, God, that you release a healing anointing upon them as they read the novel, that a powerful shift will happen in their soul realm, in their spirit realm, in their spirit realm, in their spiritual states, Father God, that they will begin to be transformed in ways that they never imagined. And I just thank you, God. I release this prayer in faith. I know that your hands are at work and that you are going to do everything in your power to help them to heal, to find restoration, to find transformation, and that their rebirth experience, this is only the beginning of a profound new beginning. I seal this prayer under your powerful name, Jesus, Lord God. I thank you. Amen, amen, amen. Woo! So I am so excited for you. And as you go through your journey, do not forget Stacy Benton and the novel REBIRTH-a Gift, because it's going to really transform your lives in so many ways with the help of God. And I'm just humbled for this experience to be here to help you. And please post your comments on the channel, and just how you feel, how you've been restored, just sharing your testimony. And on this channel, we keep everything very positive because all of you have gone through enough. So it's not about, anything negative. It's about a spiritual experience that's going to catapult you into your destiny, that's going to help you to heal and transform, to feel renewed, to feel refreshed, so that you can now embark on a completely new journey on life, so that you can now embrace your rebirth experience. I thank you so much, and God bless you.